and welcome into the Garbage Goal podcast powered by Orlando Lacrosse Report. I'm Patrick Moore, your host, along with my co-host Colin Turner, and we have a special guest with us today, Mr. Kyle Hofstaedter, who we are very excited to have with us. Yep.
Thank you.
We're very glad to have
Episode
Kyle
6,
along
big
with
dog.
us. Kyle
I
is
thought it would have been first, but I'll take 6.
Kyle is become a lacrosse fixture in the Central Florida area over the last, I guess, really decade almost, right, or longer, and has a long lacrosse resume, including high school lacrosse and college lacrosse. And today we're going to be digging into his experiences of coaching high school lacrosse, coaching college lacrosse, which he's currently assistant coach at Rollins College here in Winter Park, Florida, and just kind of everything in between. So we're looking forward to learning from you, Kyle, kind of hearing your story and some of the experiences you're having, and share with our listeners and viewers, what kind of the inside scoop is coaching high school and then being involved in college lacrosse. But, real quick, because we don't want to pump you up too much. We don't want to make you feel too good about yourself. You do have a pretty impressive bio. I think the most impressive thing is that you are married to an amazing wife and have 3 beautiful daughters who we happen to know. So I know that you're super proud of them. And Megan, you guys do a great job raising the girls. But, from a lacrosse standpoint, currently you're an assistant coach at Rollins College. You've also coached at Rollins years ago. So now you're back. But you were also the head coach at Bishop Moore Catholic High School in Orlando, Florida. You had a 25-16 record there. You were on an 8-0 streak during that COVID year, which got cut short, which was unfortunate for you guys. But you had a great team that year. I didn't actually realize this, but you also, I knew you were the head coach at Haggerty High School out in Oviedo High School. I did not realize your record was 45-14. You guys were balling out while you were there. That's impressive.
Yeah. So, we had a pretty good squad those 3 years over at Haggerty, and sent a lot of guys. A lot of those kids went on to play Division I, Division II, which was great to see. Ended up beating Winter Park, I think, in 2017 in the district finals.
Yeah, you guys won the district that year.
Yep.
But then that's not where you started your lacrosse journey in Orlando in high school, was it? Was there a school before that?
No. Yeah, I was actually at Trinity Prep for 1 year before heading over to Haggerty. So when I kind of left.
No, you're fine.
Calvin,
go ahead. You're at.
Yeah. So I found myself down here in Orlando in 2010, taking the assistant job at Rollins the first time around, and we really loved it down here, and ended up actually leaving to kind of do the head coaching thing and trying to find out, my path in this career, and realized I love Florida and the weather, and I hated the gloominess of the north and the snow and the cold weather and the 6 months of just cloudy, cold, dreary weather. And so headed back down to Central Florida and ended up getting a good opportunity at Trinity Prep before Haggerty. So that's kind of how that journey went.
And then you like you mentioned, you were at Calvin University in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Yep. You've coached at, let's see, where else? Coached at Eastern University as a DC, right?
Yep. Pennsylvania. Outside Philadelphia. Yep. D3 school.
And that's D3 school.
Yep. And then DeSales University, another D3 school outside of Philadelphia in Center Valley. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got to start.
You went to school and you played at St. Joseph's University, correct?
Correct. Yep. That's in Philadelphia. We were part of the MAC conference, the MAAC back in the day. So
that's where you met your wife with your playing career, correct?
Correct. Yeah, kind of funny story. She was an intern in the athletic training department at St. Joe's during her senior year, and playing is a loose term, Colin, I guess you could say. I was I was on the team at St. Joe's, and got into a couple games, but God had a purpose, and I guess it was for me to ride that bench that senior year to meet her. So yeah, we ended up.
I think it worked out well for your benefit.
It definitely worked out. I mean,
100%.
Let's be honest. We are three guys that all married way up, and if you ever meet one of our wives or all three of our wives, you'll realize that we are all three out of our league. So, Kyle, I'm curious, real quickly, how did you, when you were playing in high school, did you imagine you would play at the Division I level? Was that a goal of yours? Did it happen by accident? What was that? How did that transpire?
Yeah, no. So, lacrosse was a fairly new sport kind of where I grew up. And I grew up, 45 minutes outside of Philadelphia. And, we kind of got
RIP,
missed.
RIP real quick to your Philadelphia Phillies. I just wanted to make sure we talk about that.
Oh, we don't have to talk about that right now.
Okay.
Brutal.
But yeah, it seemed like lacrosse kind of missed, my area growing up. It always hit Maryland and Long Island, and we were kind of that middle state that wasn't really popular. But yeah, it started when I was in junior high, and it was a great opportunity to, I was a hockey player growing up, and so when I, was kind of over playing hockey, lacrosse was kind of the next option for us. So we went to play lacrosse, and I never thought that I would, play Division I. I was looking at a lot of Division III schools, and I ended up getting a really good academic package to St. Joe's, and found out that they had a lacrosse team. And yeah, I walked on and was given an opportunity by Coach Colin, who's my coach there for 4 years. And yeah, that's kind of how I ended up at St. Joe's.
Well, we have a couple of Central Florida kids, one playing at St. Joe's right now with Carter Truesdale from Winter Park. And then we have committed Jack Fedori. I can never say his name right. I'm sorry,
Fjordalus.
Jack. I always mess up. Fedoris. Yes, I can never say his name. I don't know why I want to say it, but anyways, Jack from Lake Highland Prep is committed to go there next year. So so that's Coach pretty Ray's cool. Cool connection for you.
Yeah. Coach Ray's doing a great job with that program. They've made the NCAA tournament for the first time. And so they've really done a good job there, and it's nice to see that they're kind of getting out of the Northeast and they're recruiting from all over. And getting
Canadian school, right? With him being a also with him being a Canadian national coach.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of Canadians. Just with Coach Ray's connection up there. But no, it's good to see a school like that really, coming along, because back when I was in school, we were. We were good for our conference, right? But we weren't competing against the Yales and the Dukes, and it seems like they're really turning a corner and competing against those other programs.
Well, one other thing too that I didn't mention, Kyle, is that you also played for the Dutch national team, right? In 06, 10, and 14, is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
So I'm assuming you're Dutch.
Yeah. I mean, with the last name Hofstaedter.
Or an able body.
I love me some Dutch apple pie. I know that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a real Dutch thing.
I don't think that's a Dutch thing, but it sounds good.
No. So my mom is straight off the boat. I'm first generation born here from my mom's side. And so, that's kind of where I got the Dutch heritage. And again, another thing that kind of fell in my lap, we had a player on our team at St. Joe's that was playing for Italy. And I was like, I didn't even know Italy had a team. Went on, looked at the World Championships, found out the Netherlands had a team, and, kind of just reached out to them. And that's how I got connected, just with them, and, built so many great relationships, starting, lacrosse over in Holland at the youth level, and then other countries. Last spring I went over to Slovenia to help a Dutch guy who's kind of starting lacrosse in Slovenia. So it's really opened a lot of doors, and it's great to see, especially now that it's going to be an Olympic sport.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to see beyond the U.S. team, guys that are living in the U.S. that are getting to play on the world stage through lacrosse, with like on the Dutch. people that are playing on. I know a couple kids from Florida have played on the Puerto Rican team. I just saw where
Nick
Tanner
Beattie played
Guard,
for
who was from Tanner Guard, who now
Tanner
plays at
Sims.
Flagler. Tanner Sims, who plays at Flagler College, and is on Team Jamaica, is actually on the cover of Inside Lacrosse last week. So I happened to see him the other night and told him I expect to see a poster size picture of that front cover in his room up at Flagler soon. So it's kind of a cool connection. But so let's talk a little bit about let's talk some lacrosse here and talk about your experience. And what I would love for us to dig into, and what we were talking about before we started the show, was what's some of the differences that you see between the high school game and the college game? Because you've kind of gone back and forth, right? You played college, you coached some college, you coached some high school, you went back to college, you coached some high school, and now you're back in the college. So, like, for you, what are some of the things, the obvious things as a coach that just stick out to you that are like big differences, differences between the high school game, the personnel, and the college game?
First thing I got to say, parents don't got to deal with them. I say that jokingly, but it's a lot less hands-on with the parents. And so, they're a great help for us, especially at Rollins. They help organize meals, and help with fundraising aspects and different things like that. But it's a lot less of, talking about playing time or, any issues that arise, right? You're dealing with young men who are 18, 19, 20, 21 years old now. So that's definitely a different aspect when it comes to the college game. On the field, it's just a faster pace game, right? And so, with the shot clock in college, just you don't have as much time to sub and waste clock. It's like you got to go all the time. Mm-hmm. And so, that's the one thing I love about Rollins is that we play a very high pace tempo lacrosse. And so we're always going to, clear the ball and probe to see, hey, can we go right away? Like, can we score? Which I think is great, because we're having, scoring's fun, right? And so, a lot of our goals, scores, if you look at last year's 17-10, or, it makes it very entertaining, which is great.
Before you go on to that, the question with the high school and college, you talk about the shot clock, and it's funny, we've talked about this with with Sergio and Poe up at PV. Both of them strongly feel that high school should implement a shot clock. And you've lived in both arenas and on the coaching side. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, at first I was a little timid. I didn't know if I was going to like it, but kind of getting last year under my belt, I definitely love having a shot clock. I don't know if it's feasible in the high school realm of the sport, just because now you got to find somebody else to kind of man the table, to run the shot clock, to know, how to reset the shot clock, when to reset the shot clock. So it definitely adds some logistical issues to the high school game, but I do like it because, teams cannot, just hold on to the ball and kill penalties. They can't just kill under 2 minutes and, just run around. There's going to be an 80-second shot clock where, hey, they're going to have to, we know that we're going to get the ball back, at the end of the, this 80 seconds. So we have an opportunity to score on the other end if we're down by one or whatever the case may be. So it's great. I really like it. It makes the game faster paced. It makes you kind of have to go to the goal. You can't just hold on to the ball. And so it definitely improves the game, I think.
Well, if you look at the national tournaments on the high school level, which are typically like your top boarding schools, the big schools that are playing at the highest levels, the IMG academies and the Salisburys and the Tafts and all these big schools, when they play in these tournaments, they're using a shot clock. And so my thing is like, how do we trickle that down into the normal high school athletics throughout each state and make that part of the game? Because to me, I'm like you, it makes the game more fast. It makes it more fun. Because the worst thing to see is in a high school game where you have a team just stalling. It's a little bit like, in my opinion, it's still a little bit like what we have in high school basketball, without a shot clock in high school basketball, you can run the old, Dean Smith, Carolina 4 quarters and just hold on to the ball until the referee decides to call a stall or whatever. But, it's just, to me, it would make that much more excitement for the fans. It would get more kids engaged. I think it's a win-win, and I love seeing it at the college level for sure.
And I would love for high school to implement it. I think it's just coming down to support enough staff people. It's funny because back in the day we used to have horn, right? And Turner, I know you know this rule where it's like horn, and we try to get the D middies on, get the substitutions on, and when they got rid of that, everybody was like, oh my God, how are we gonna? The D middies gonna go away? It's but. We learned to adapt and we learned to play faster and get subs on different ways and subbing through the midfield. And, we adapted to that situation. So I think, once, I think if this passes in high school and people will just find a way to adapt and make it work.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to happen eventually. It's going to come. It's just a matter of time.
But it's one of those things we got to, not all programs are the higher level programs like the Lake Marys, the Ponte Vedras, the Winter Parks, the Lake Highlands, right? And it's trying to keep the game inclusive, right? And that's the problem. Like you said, it's additional staff, it's additional technology, and the funding in schools right now is not there.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about, I did read an article, I believe, I may be crazy and somebody can write in the comments and tell me I'm totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure the FHSAA has had a conversation about, I know with basketball that they've talked about implementing a shot clock, which is a lot like lacrosse in that you can stall and wear the clock out. And I believe there has been some conversations with the lacrosse advisory board on potentially a shot clock, which I think will happen further down the road. But I think it's something that needs to eventually happen. But yeah, I like to hear those differences for you. And I think that's the theme that Colin and I hear over and over. Every time we talk to a high school coach or somebody that played in college or has played at the highest level, they talk about the speed of the game and the physicality. And I don't know. It's so hard to put that into words until you actually see it. And I'll mention this. If you're listening to the Garbage Goal podcast and you've never been to a college game, it doesn't matter if it's Division III or Division I or Division II. College lacrosse is just another speed. It is unbelievably physical and unbelievably fast. And so you need to get your tail to a Rollins game, get to a Florida Southern game, get to a Flagler game, go up to JU and watch, or whatever it is, get to one of these games because you will be amazed at how fast the game is. For you, when you made that switch again, going from high school back to college, when you went to Rollins as an assistant coach, did it take you a minute to kind of catch up? Like, were you kind of like, oh man, I gotta like the speed of this thing?
Yeah. The speed, just the substitution, a lot of those things are just so fast, so high pace, and it's funny because, you look at a lot of these guys and with COVID year and kind of redshirt years, I mean, we have guys that are 24 on our team, they're grown men, and they're most of them are bigger. That's the biggest difference, and
I had 3 kids. I had 3 kids at 24 years old.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was coaching probably by the time I was, 24 years old, 25 years old. So, but the one nice thing, I guess, going from high school to college, though, I must say is kind of, the years that you can, say you have a down year, right, in high school, the next year you kind of know who you have, right? And you have to really develop, starting with the youth. And, you're really hoping that, the new kids that are coming in 9th grade are really going to help and be on that right track. In college, if you have a down year, you have an opportunity the next year to kind of change that, right? And that all has to do with recruiting and the transfer portal, and you can really pick and choose, like, hey, we really need a face-off guy. We're going to go out and get a face-off guy. Whereas in high school, you're kind of like, man, I got to really develop a face-off guy, and it might take, 3, 4, 5 years before I see him as, a high school player that's going to, help us, on the field. So, that's another thing that I really like is that you have that opportunity to make your team better next year, by the recruiting process.
And I think that's an interesting way that you segued into that, right? Rollins College, 15-2 last year. Yep. NCAA tournament berth, had an unfortunate loss. Was it Lenore Ryan, I believe, right?
Right. Yeah. Right? Yeah, they ended up winning it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, if you're going to lose, you might as well lose to the champ at the end of the day. But, and I looked over the roster. You have a lot of D1 transfers that came back, came to Rollins. You had a lot of shakeup. You got some local kids that have played, but then a couple other big names came down and kind of helped reshape an already strong roster in D2. Talk a little bit about that transfer portal and what you've seen. I mean, again, NIL is not a big deal, obviously, in this level, but at the end of the day, the transfer portal still is a pretty big deal.
Sure. Yeah, I think, outside of being a Division I football or basketball player, the whole NIL is very minimal, right? Especially in the sport of lacrosse. Not saying that there's nothing out there for these players, but it's not. You're not getting a Ram truck like the University of Utah gave their football players, right?
That was insane.
Crazy, by the way.
Just a 6-month lease. Let's not talk about it. It's a 6-month lease. Let's get into the details here.
That's but yeah, the portal has really helped kind of. We've been slowly building the Rollins program, right? Coach Lewis has been building this program, for the last couple years. And so what really kind of put us over the top was the transfer portal guys last year. We had a Mikey Berkman, who's a local kid from West Orange. He ended up graduating from Syracuse, had 2 years of eligibility left, is getting his master's now. He brought down a buddy of his, Shahei Kachadorian, who was our D2 goalie of the year last year. Same circumstance, right? He
just brought him down, the D2 goalie of the year. Just come on to Rollins.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, is built like a WWE superstar. He's a monster. Looks like he should just be breaking guys' backs, but anyhow.
Yeah, he's a guy that graduated from Syracuse, had 2 years of eligibility, he's getting his master's degree, right? And so we got really fortunate with getting, those guys last year that really kind of helped us put us, over the top, I should say. And you're right, we had a kind of a disappointing end to our season. But the nice thing is that we returned like 90% of our team from last year. We lost an important part with Justin Eisenhower, who graduated, but we returned a lot of our offensive studs, including our 3 All-American attackmen. And so we're hoping to be right back in that same spot this year. We brought in 2 more transfers this year. A guy from High Point and another player from Syracuse. So, it definitely helps. I do see the transfer portal kind of teetering off, especially with, the COVID year, lapsing after this year. So you won't see many kids with, 2 years eligibility left after graduation. But it's always going to be there. There's always going to be kids that, aren't happy or, want a new scene, want to have another opportunity. And so, it's definitely a way to, improve your team, like you said, kind of overnight, by getting these guys and getting them acclimated into your system.
In general, though, Kyle, do you think, and not specific to Rollins necessarily, Rollins College, but just lacrosse in general, do you think that, how do you see the makeup of the transfer portal as this thing goes forward? Because now that you wipe COVID out, you take that year, right?
Sure.
You're not going to have guys that are going to be at schools for 6 or 7 years anymore. So what does the transfer portal do? What does it look like for coaches in lacrosse now, recruiting wise? Are you going to see them go back to the more traditional, bringing in some high school kids sprinkled in with transfers? Are they going to go heavy on the transfers? What do you see is going to happen?
I don't see the transfer portal dying whatsoever. I think you're going to get the kids who, spent 4 years at a school and have, a redshirt year eligibility left, right? So they have 1 more year and, they're going to look to see what they can do somewhere else, or see if they can get a master's degree somewhere else and play there. And then you're going to also see the kids that are, underclassmen who just might not be happy with their playing time or not happy with the school or whatever the reason may be, right? Financially, they're going to want to look to go transfer somewhere else. So there's definitely going to be those kids. It's just, if a coach wants to take a player for 1 year, I mean, that's the decision you have to make, right? And
that's got to be tough.
for us,
That's got to be so tough for the continuity of the team.
Yeah, for us, our master programs are 2 years, right? Our master's in business programs 2 years. So, it would be really tough to bring in a fifth year guy, right, who only has 1 year of eligibility, right, and to kind of get him to fit in and do well and know that he's got 2 years of school, right? So he's going to have to either redshirt another year and then play his kind of 6 year, for a lack of a better term, or if he's going to play right away and then sit out and just go to school as 6 years. So it's going to be interesting to see how kind of that all plays out.
And so talk about a little bit of Rollins, because we talked with Sergio a lot about what it is to be a D1 athlete. When you're going out and recruiting kids to Rollins, what is the pitch to come to, obviously, beautiful Winter Park, Florida, best place, in my opinion, to play lacrosse? But what's the pitch for D2 Rollins? Talk a little bit about, and Patrick's been one of the biggest supporters. We talk about this all the time in the state of Florida. D2 lacrosse is unbelievable in the state of Florida. And Rollins has obviously had a great year last year getting to the tournament. What's it like to be a D2 athlete, and what's the sales pitch to get those boys to come down?
Sure. I'll take this, and our other assistant coach, Gary DiClemente, says it's like finding unicorns, right? Especially for Rollins, because you have to find guys who, one, are academically, have high academics, especially for a school like Rollins, but, might have not, gotten an offer from a D1 program, but is still a D1 style athlete, right? And so, we got to find those unicorns at all these other, recruits and kids, and find the ones that are right fit for us, which can be hard. But, they're definitely out there. And so, when I say, finding those kids that have kind of D1 talents is, maybe they're lacking, one skill, right? That might turn off some D1 schools, but we know that, hey, they're going to be a really good asset for us, and we're going to work with them on that and develop them to be the best they can be. And so that's the kind of kid that we're looking for. The school itself sells itself. Rollins is beautiful. It's got an amazing campus. If you haven't checked it out and you're in the, Central Florida or even Florida area, check it out. I mean, we sit on beautiful Lake Virginia. We have 3 pools on campus. We have a sushi bar, tremendous academics. It sounds more like a country club than it does a college.
Well, it kind of looks like one. It's so nice.
And it
looks such a beautiful campus. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And Hoff, I look at the roster right now. I see that you've got, is this correct, around 23 freshmen that are coming in this year to about 56 other upperclassmen?
We had about 18 recruits, and 5 walk-ons. So that's kind of the mix of freshmen right now. We did bring in a kind of more freshmen than we usually do this year, just because we are heavy senior and grad school. So we're going to be graduating about 20 senior grad students this spring. And so we really wanted to get a larger class in, just so that they could learn from those upperclassmen, kind of understand the culture that we have, and we weren't trying to teach that stuff on the fly. So, that's kind of the breakdown.
Well,
but yeah,
what's interesting?
If you get to campus, it's beautiful.
What's interesting though is I'm sure somebody's listening to this going, "How many kids did Colin just say?" People have no idea how big the rosters are at college lacrosse teams, because most people come from a high school environment where you have like 20, 25, 30 kids maybe. I think the most I've seen on my son's teams was like 33 on a high school team. But I know that my oldest son, his first year at Jacksonville, they had 67 guys on the roster. And then, even now that both my boys are at Flagler College, they're going to carry upwards of high 50s, 60 kids. So that people don't understand how competitive it is, but also
Yeah.
that you have to have that many kids for practice team, for injuries, for the next couple of years. Just like you're talking about, you're getting ready to graduate, a quarter of your
20.
team. You got to have guys in the hopper ready to go next year.
Correct.
There's no time to let's figure this out next year. We got to figure it out now. So next year when you step on the field, you got to be able to go. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Colin.
Sorry, I'm playing with your roster tool, which your web people, Rollins, has done an amazing job. Shahe, your goalie, by the way, is he an offensive lineman for a Division I program, or is he a goalie?
He's a monster.
For D2. I did not. When you said that, I didn't believe you. 6'3", 280 pounds.
Yeah,
he's bigger than
he's definitely a lineman, and
he's bigger than me.
He's got the fastest feet. I mean, he's got fast hands.
He moves
fast
like
feet.
he's like 210 pounds when I watched him play. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I remember last year. Not to get off topic. Last year we were playing Westminster, and he came out of the cage, and there was a turnover, and they threw it, and I swear to God, he jumped, and it looked like Superman. And he made the diving save, and I was like, oh, that kid can move. Okay. All right.
Well, you don't get that's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah. You don't get recruited to play goalie at Syracuse if you can't play, right? So he can obviously play, and then of course you guys have been very fortunate to have him as your keeper last year and this upcoming year. But I want to talk about this for a second. Here's another thing too that I don't think people realize, and I've been on this train. Colin and I talk about this all the time now, and partly selfishly, it's because I'm in the middle of it with two of my sons playing at Florida College, which is Division II lacrosse. But I think there's few places in the country that have as much condensed good lacrosse as Florida does for Division II. Because you guys had a killer year at Rollins. You have Florida Southern who year after year puts together great teams and competes at the national level. You have Tampa, who's won a national championship and who continues to compete for national championships, who, by the way, also, like you all in Rollins, has a beautiful campus. You have St. Leo, who is a high caliber program, almost every year, every other year.
The NCAA tournament, back in 2018.
Exactly. And then you've got all these trickle down teams now, like with, Flagler's coming in the Peach. You've got, Florida Tech, you've got Lynn, Embry-Riddle. I mean, it's a lot of good lacrosse right here within a couple hours of Central Florida just for Division II.
Yeah, it's definitely taken off, especially with the conference sponsoring it and it really booming. If you look at a lot of northern schools, the North used to be, the creme de la creme of lacrosse. The Lemoynes, the Merrimacks, the Bryants, right? And they're all kind of transitioning to Division I now. And I think also people are noticing the Sunshine State schools down here in the South, but also, hey, you can play lacrosse in January and not have to shovel a field full of snow, right? And it's going to be 65, 70 degrees, and it's going to be a nice time to play lacrosse. And so I think a lot of kids are noticing that, and it's drawing a lot of those kids down to Florida.
Come on, let's be honest. No offense to Lemoyne, but do you want to go play in Syracuse and play in Lemoyne and be in 5 feet of snow, or go to Tampa and somebody posted something on TikTok the other day and half the school was out at one of the pools and it was 82 degrees here in Florida and it's already starting to change up north. It's to me, that's the greatest recruiting pitch ever. I think every one of you Florida schools, from JU being the only men's Division I program, and then all the D2 schools, literally bring every recruit here in January, walk them through campus. Everybody's wearing shorts. Everybody's wearing shorts, T-shirts, flip-flops, and go, okay,
that
you
just
want to play here or you want to go play in 5 feet of snow?
Right? There's just distractions.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with
distractions everywhere, which makes it harder for us coaches to make sure these guys are in line,
That's true.
There's a beach on Lake Virginia that is a popular spot in February in Rollins. Let's be clear,
there is.
Right? Not a lot of beach and lakefront property up in there. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Well, what do you? What do you think is? And of course, I'm sure you and Coach Lewis talk a lot. Which, by the way, I want to give a big shout out to Coach Lewis at Rollins. Just to me, one of the nicest, normal lacrosse coaches I think
Oh,
I've ever
okay.
met, in terms of just a normal guy, just a good dude. I've seen him for years at travel lacrosse tournaments, which I give him a lot of credit. He's always traveled up north to the big tournaments to
Yeah.
look at guys and watch guys. He's always usually walking around barefoot. But I am too. So we know we're both from Florida, which is cool, and
Yeah.
summers up north. But where do you see, as you guys are talking as a coaching staff, like what's your expectations for the spring? I mean, I know we're still a few months away, and there's a lot of things that have to be worked on and done. But I mean,
Sure.
what's the end goal? Is it national championship or nothing? Is it make the tournament? I mean, where are you guys at? Where's your headspace at
Yeah.
coming in the spring?
Yeah, no, I mean, we were really disappointed with how last year ended. We thought we had a good enough team to um, be in Philadelphia Memorial Day weekend. And we definitely thought we were well prepared for Lenore Ryan, who ended up getting going on a hot streak and playing some really good lacrosse, and they have a great coach, and they really played really well. So, we have that chip on our shoulder for this year, and we feel like we can get right back to um that same spot, being, hopefully number one in the country this year. Especially with Lemoyne kind of out of the picture now. We think we have a great opportunity kind of to relive some of the magic that we had last year. And compete for a national championship, and we don't think that's an unrealistic goal. We want to win the SSC regular season. We want to win the SSC tournament championship. We want to make the NCAA tournament, and we want to go to Philadelphia in Memorial Day. And it would be great for me to be back home, playing in a national championship game. But we think we have the talent to do so. Like I said, we returned the majority of our team from last year. We lost Ike, who again graduated, but we bring in two other guys that we didn't have that played at the Division I level. I know Tampa has brought in some good recruits and some good transfers, and they're going to be a tough matchup. And I know they circled our game this year. Especially after beating them last year. We know Florida Southern has us circled, beating them in the SSC, championship game. So we know that there's a lot of teams going to be gunning for us this year, but we feel confident in the team that we have, and the ability of making it back there. So,
And of course,
yeah, anything
can happen, obviously, when the season comes about. But it
absolutely.
seems like it. The Sunshine State Conference is going to have to run through one of three teams, and it's going to be Rollins, Florida Southern, and Tampa. And of course, anything can happen. But I mean, it's that those are the
Florida
three
Tech
teams that
brought
are going to
in
be
a
competing.
bunch of transfers as well, so you can't sleep on any of the. And that's the great thing about the SSC is that on any given day, any of these teams can compete with you and play really good lacrosse. Everybody's super talented. They all have a bunch of really good players from all over the country and Canada. So it's a great conference to be a part of, and it's Southern lacrosse is going to be the new hotbed for sure.
I agree. I think I'm gonna be the guy, whether I got 5 people listening to me or 5,000 people listening to me. I'm gonna be the guy going, "Hey, everybody needs to come down here because this is where all the best Division II lacrosse is, because
Yeah.
it's unbelievable, the talent down there and the games
It,
that are being played."
yeah, and Nova Southeastern, another team in our conference, is adding lacrosse in 25. So
It's amazing. That's
it's
awesome.
just going to keep growing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think, Patrick, I don't know if we're wrapping up here, but I will tell you, if anyone is local, and if you're listening to this, obviously, we're just getting rolling here, but Rollins has 7 home games that they're going to start on February 3rd as their first game at Baker Family Stadium here in Winter Park, Florida, with a brand new turf that they just put down there. So it's looking good, and I'll tell you, I've got an 8-year-old son that plays lacrosse, and the way to get him involved in lacrosse was showing him the game at a high level. It doesn't hurt that you can go to Park Ave, have a great meal, walk across the street, see the game, go back over to Park Ave and have ice cream or whatever. So anyone that's never been to a lacrosse game,
Yep, games are
free to
free,
get in.
so free to get in.
Yeah.
So Yeah, come
Somehow
out.
I pay every time. Is that to pay for your salary at the game? I guess must be
make him-
one of those things.
Yeah, when I say
make Colin
Patrick,
give me
Patrick
money
Moore
before
and
we get
Colin
there.
Turner. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a really good time if you haven't been to a Rollins game.
I
And the
want my
girl
press pass. I want a press pass for next year so I can get on the field.
And also for the parents that have girls, Coach Short and his staff at the girls team at Rollins is another very, very high level program as well. Another great sport to go watch. So we highly recommend getting out to Baker. What is it? Baker Family Stadium. That's a heck of a name to try to remember.
Yeah,
and watch a couple
Field.
The Baker family paid for it. The Baker family paid for it, bro. Come on.
Isn't it the K-House Sanspur Field to be correct?
The K-House, yes. K-House
Sanspur
Field.
Well, we'll definitely be sharing more about the Rollins season and games, and I'm sure we'll be at a game here or there, and we'll put some stuff up on the Orlando Lacrosse Report and talk about it on the Garbage Goal podcast. And eventually we're going to have Coach Lewis on here as well, because we want to talk to him and get some insight from him, because he's obviously a wealth of knowledge. But Kyle, thanks, man, for joining us on the Garbage Goal podcast. We appreciate you. Appreciate your friendship.
Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you in Central Florida, continuing to kind of further the advancement of boys and men's lacrosse. And, look forward to seeing you on the field. And definitely don't mess the box up, okay? Because I will be on you. Too many on the field, I will be screaming. That's Hofstaedter's fault. That's his fault. But we're looking forward to seeing what Rollins is going to do this year, and we'll definitely be cheering them on. I will personally be cheering them on every game except for when you guys come up to Flagler, which I hope we can give you a little more. I'm hoping we can give you a little more hell than we did last year, because you guys shellacked us. But that's a talk for another day.
Side note: I believe Flagler comes to Winter Park this year.
Do they? Is it on there? Or are we
playing? I believe they're coming back.
Oh, you guys suckered us into coming there twice. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. That's okay. I'll just ride my e-bike from my house over to Rollins. That'll work.
Alpha Beta.
No, that'll be a lot of fun. It actually was a lot of fun. And it'll be even more fun now because we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we have 6 Central Florida kids on the Flagler College team this year. We have a kid from Lake Nona. We have 3 from Winter Park. We have an Oviedo kid, and we have someone else. I can't think who it is. But yeah, so we'll have a good turnout.
Rollins got a few too.
Oh yeah, Rollins definitely does.
Yeah, so it's great when you get to see these kids you coached in high school or coached against in high school, and then you're seeing them play in college. It's great. Those friendships and those it's great to see.
It is. It's a cool thing. It's all full circle. We're getting old, guys. We're getting old.
Absolutely.
Well, Colin, I want to let you know I appreciate. I can't stand your hat. But I do appreciate you wearing your undefeated Bishop Moore Lacrosse 8-0 T-shirt today. Max Preps number 1.
That was my first year.
Back when Kyle Hofstaedter led Bishop Moore to an 8-0 record, and then it was cut short by COVID. So
before the Northeast started, but we won't poke fun. Kyle's a shirt guy, big shirt guy.
He's a shirt guy. It's all right. Hey, if Rollins wins it all, we'll wear a Rollins number 1 shirt. We're never gonna let you live that one down. But hey, and listen, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Remember, share the Garbage Goal podcast on Facebook, Instagram.
Subscribe.
Like it, subscribe. We're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. We appreciate all the support, and we'll see you next time.